AI to improve road safety. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from Rekor Systems is Executive VP Charles Degliomini. Hi, Charles.
Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Terrific. Great to meet you. And let's start out with a little bit of background about Rekor.
Yeah, Rekor is a NASDAQ listed company. We're located in Columbia, Maryland, equidistant between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. But we are a roadway intelligence company. We use AI, and when I mention AI, it's a buzzword now, but we've been training models to understand everything that's happening on the roadway to create roadway intelligence. Our cars today are very smart. Our roadways are analog and very dumb.
Well, give us some examples of the kinds of technology that you're using. How is it applied, and how and where it's being used, maybe.
Yeah, so it's used primarily by government agencies. I'll give you one example. It's a product called Rekor Command, and that sits inside of traffic management centers. So you've probably seen, videos of people staring up at screens trying to figure out what's happening on a roadway. Maybe it's I-95, maybe it's the Belt Parkway in New York, maybe it's some other major thoroughfare. And it's human beings looking at multiple screens saying, oh, there's an accident there. We need to dispatch someone to this scene. What our AI and Rekor Command does, it actually teases up the information for the traffic center operators so they don't have to have their eyeballs on it. It provides an alert that says, look here. And not only does it identify a major incident, let's say it's an 18-wheeler that's rolled over, unfortunately. But even if it's something minor like a mattress falling off the back of a Ford F-150, so you obviously don't need a full-on response for the mattress incidents. So it's able to categorize those incidents as well as identify them, right? It's a huge expansion in the ability of the human being to operate in those traffic management centers more efficiently.
So, are you making strictly software? Tell us what it is that you have on the market.
Yeah, it's a great question. We actually do both, but we're primarily a AI software company, but we do have sensors that look down at the roadway and pull information out of it. Another thing we do, it's a product called Rekor Discover, is if you've ever driven over a rubber tube on the roadway. I think we all have at one point. What that is, people don't understand what that is. It's actually mandated that states and cities and counties report traffic data to the US DOT, right? So, and then federal funding flows back to the localities based on the amount of traffic that's going by. But you think about it, here we are in 2025, and think about that rubber tube. It requires a man or a woman with a hammer and asphalt nails to run across the roadway, hammer that rubber tube in, and then run back across the roadway, right? And rubber tubes fail. You can imagine the weight that goes over them, and then they have to go back in a couple of weeks and do it all over again. So what Rekor does is we've said, look, let's automate that process. Let's use AI so we can have one of our sensors located at the side of the roadway, right? Not in the roadway, that pulls out better traffic data, right? We're able to look down and categorize. We know whether it's a motorcycle, it's an 18-wheeler, it's a FedEx truck, it's a passenger vehicle, and provide DOTs and state municipal agencies all kinds of rich data that they can then use to inform decisions they need to make about their roadways.
So, whether it's your sensors or cameras that government agencies might be using on roads and highways, you are analyzing what it's seeing to alert the proper people to take a look here.
Right, right. Two different use cases. One is just specifically for traffic studies, but the other thing for incident management, we pull in not only video data, right? It could be our sensor that's on the roadway, or we've all seen the traffic cams that are out there. We could pull information off of the AI looks at that. But we also look at Waze data, Bluetooth data, connected car data. If there's an example, people don't realize your car is reporting out all kinds of information about what's happening with it, right? So if you slam on the brakes in an emergency and we see four-way flashers and windshield wipers being on. And then we look at and we pull in weather data and we know there's an extreme weather event happening. We send a message to the traffic center operator saying you have an incident right here, or you have the, think about this, Fred, you have the potential for an incident here, right? Go take a look at it and make the appropriate response decisions.
So how might all of this benefit us as drivers? A lot of us today are using our phones or screens in vehicles for navigation, looking for traffic bottlenecks and finding ways to trying to find ways to get around them.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest problems with, let's say there is an accident on the roadway, right? The chances of a secondary crash being created are astronomical, right? So being able to get that incident cleared off the roadway allows me and you to get to work on time, allows me and you to go home and have dinner with our family on time, right? So it's a huge time saver for the citizen that's on the roadway. Not to mention the people who need to work on the roadways and need to do it's a very dangerous job, right? So one of the things we've been evangelizing is let's use AI and keep people off the roadway.
And I understand that you're using your technology, or will be, to actually assess potential dangers with bridges, overpasses, and the like. Is that right?
That is true. So you could imagine. So think about this is actually happening on the Brooklyn Queens Expressway right now. So hundreds and thousands of trucks every day traverse a cantilevered section of a roadway in New York, which is very instrumental. It basically connects Manhattan to the Verrazano Bridge in Brooklyn. And it's a cantilevered structure. It's been up since, Moses was around, right? It's rusting, it's failing, it has problems. But really, the thing that impacts roadways the most are overweight vehicles. You can imagine trucking companies sometimes are not compliant with the weight of the loads that they carry. So what Rekor does is we can embed a sensor in the roadway. When that vehicle travels over that sensor, we can weigh it on the spot, and then we can send an alert saying, hey, this vehicle is overweight. In New York City, that's resulting in trucking companies getting fines in the mail. They open up their mail and they say, hey, you're not going to get away with this, buddy. We see you, right? And it doesn't take a police officer to pull you over. Now, what does that do? That improves safety on the roadway. It especially keeps that weight off of not only the roadway, but the bridges, which can't tolerate overweight vehicles. And every time a overweighted, let's say 18-wheeler traverses a bridge, it has a negative impact and it reduces the lifespan of that bridge. So once again, it's AI technology identifying the vehicle and actually weighing it as it's rolling down the roadway.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
Are you yet able to assess things like, I suppose it takes a physical inspection, assess like weaknesses and dangers before, God forbid, a collapse?
Yeah, we're not doing that right now. Our AI is specifically tuned to vehicles and not infrastructure, right? But I'm sure there's other companies out there that are doing just that, that are be able through a video stream to say, hey, this bridge arch may or may not have a problem.
Are you measuring things like greenhouse gases? Did I read something about that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, that's correct. So because we understand everything that's happening on the roadway, so we know when we look down at the roadway that we know think about how sophisticated this is, that it's a 26 red Ford 150. And then we can look up in the database what the EPA emission is for that vehicle. And then we tease that into hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, and you can pick a particular amount of time. Let's say it's over a 1 hour period. And then we can tease up an average greenhouse or smog score for that section of the roadway based on the information that the manufacturers provide to the EPA about emissions. Now, are we physically sniffing the air? No, we don't do that. But in aggregate, when you look at all of the information, our greenhouse gas data is pretty useful and it's pretty accurate, barring something more specific, like somebody going out with a hose and testing a tailpipe emission or sniffing the air.
Interesting. So what else
Yeah.
can you tell us about how technology might enable our roads to be safer? There's so much going on, and AI is getting better every day, it seems.
One of the things that we're super excited about, we think that, we're building the future, and we think the future is right about here, today as we speak, Fred. It is the ability to do that predictive analysis, right? To say we're looking at all of them, once again, back to the traffic management center operators, saying in advance of now look, we cannot, right? We don't have a crystal ball. We don't say, hey, there's going to be an accident with a tractor trailer and a motorcycle at this location at this particular time. But we can definitely tease out information that says this is a potential issue, and please look at it right now and take mitigating action to make sure something, then that could mean sending a police car out in advance. That could be flashing. Look, these traffic management centers have all of those warning signs that we see on the roadway. Sometimes we see them for amber alerts and things like that. Slow down, weather event ahead, right? Or there is a potential for an accident because someone is broken down at the side of the roadway. The AI sees that, and we're able to make predictive calls to traffic management center operators. And once again, it makes that human being almost superhuman inside that traffic management center.
Terrific. For more info, where can everyone go?
Go to our website, Rekor, that's REKOR.ai.
Terrific. Charles Degliomini, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thank you, Fred.